All right, you ready, my friend?
I'm ready.
All right, let's dive into our news segment. We have 3 news items on this edition of CMS Connected, and the first one has to do with HP suing to recover more than $5 billion in the autonomy deal. So let me read the headline for you. The suit, which HP filed recently in March, also names, besides Michael Lynch, also names Autonomy's CEO, former CFO, Sues Hussain. Both are accused of fraud in relation to the HP acquisition of Autonomy in 2011 for $10.1 billion. What do you make of this, Scott?
Number one, we've covered this many times before.
Yes.
I feel like, again, with the HP suit of Autonomy. Look, I think they're not going to find any legs here, and that's not because I'm not commenting whether or not there was fraud per se. I'm commenting that I think that this ship has sailed. It's time to stop crying over it. I think HP is doing far more damage to their reputation by continuing to dismiss them and make the Autonomy acquisition the redheaded stepchild of the organization. I think they need to stop focusing on that and kind of right the ship and focus on what's important. In fact, there was the kind of equivalent of an SEC body that's over in the UK.
In the UK,
yeah, and I forget the name of it, I apologize, but they recently dismissed this case actually and said that there wasn't anything there for them to go after. You know, number one, are you actually going to get $5 billion out of Mike Lynch? I think the answer is no to that. I think this is just much ado about nothing yet again, and we won't see a whole lot of traction except for some bad news.
So the obvious question, does HP have a case here?
Look, I think what the claim is, basically, is they inflated their revenues and carved off, a lot of the things that would have otherwise been categorized as services that they basically billed off as if it was product revenue, which is, of course, what substantiates the dollar value and the multiple that one gets when they're making an acquisition, right? And so what they're basically saying here is that there was inflated pricing and some fraudulent activities going on, and hence that's why you go after a CFO in this sort of a situation. I think, though, I don't know whether that's true or not. I think that practice is fairly not so uncommon, and I think Wall Street drives these companies to kind of do that, but I don't really know if it's happened or not.
All right, news item number 2 on this edition of CMS Connected. I'm Butch Stearns, he's Scott Lewer. We are here on location at the Hotel Marlowe in Cambridge. News item number 2, we in the US are more serious, according to this survey done by Nunwood, which is a British-based CX research firm, and a survey conducted with 7,500 U.S. consumers of 225 brands. We, in the U.S., compared to the U.K., are much more serious and better at customer experience management and customer experience in general. Do you buy this?
What they're saying is that the U.S. companies in general are better at customer experience than the U.K. companies.
Okay.
I think the lead of the story, what they said is, which I think is completely wrong, and this is what people who make good headlines do, is they basically say that the survey shows U.S. companies excel at customer experience. What they should have said is, versus companies in the UK is what they're trying to say. Overall, I don't think we're necessarily great at this. I think we've embraced it, that we need to focus on it, but I don't think that we shouldn't view that we are wonderful at customer experience in general. I just think that of the 225 companies they surveyed, US came out a little bit higher.
So if I'm involved in customer experience and I'm with a US company and I read this survey and I say to myself, wow, we're pretty good, you're saying that I have probably a false sense of security here, that I should be examining what this survey's telling me, and the best of breed companies, I should be comparing myself to them.
That's right. By the way, the 225 companies that they surveyed are the same ones that Forrester did, and it's maybe not an exact parallel, but mostly the big name ones are the same ones that Forrester does when they do their CXM survey. And basically, those are the brands that we all think of when we think about great customer service. I mean, those are the ones that they were looking at and profiling. If you look, though, across the world, how many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of brands there are, many of them, you can't compare yourself to the likes of some of the ones that are stated in here.
So do you agree, before we move on, in the premise in this survey that American culture is also so deeply rooted in providing excellent customer service that it's more so than in other countries in general? That's the general premise of this.
I don't know if that's true or not. I don't feel like I want to comment on whether or not other cultures value experience as much as we do. I do know that certainly as a culture the U.S. does. That being said, I also know that businesses value whatever brings them the almighty dollar. And right now, as a way to fend off kind of disruption, folks are realizing that gaining loyal customers is a pretty good darn way to do that. And so the idea of focusing on customer experience certainly isn't a bad one until you go and figure out how to improve your products and that.
You are watching CMS Connected. This is our news segment off the top of the show. We are coming to you on location from the Hotel Marlowe in Cambridge at the 2015 Intranet Reloaded Boston event. We have an audience here for you that is watching the show live here in person. We are doing our news items. I want to ask all of you in the room, how many of you use Facebook? Raise your hands. How many people don't use Facebook? Okay.
Nice.
Okay. How many of you that use Facebook use it for business? Wow, a lot less hands though. So our headline item number 3, I think is brilliant by Facebook. A lot of things they do I don't agree with, but Facebook wants to host your news site's content. And here's the story. Facebook wants to get into the news business, but not directly, according to a post in Fierce Content Management by Lisa Hoover McGreevy. In this post, she references an article in the New York Times that Facebook has been knocking on the doors of major media organizations to chat them up about hosting their content directly inside Facebook so users don't have to leave the site to get their daily dose of news. Though no formal announcement has been made, apparently, according to the New York Times, the New York Times, National Geographic, and BuzzFeed are already on board. What do you make of this story?
So, look, I think, like you said, smart for Facebook. I'd like to counter that. I think there's actually some down the road challenges for them if they go this. But look, in the same way that Airbnb has a really smart monopoly on, they've got all these hotel rooms, yet they don't actually own any hotels. Facebook has always been a content platform that actually doesn't provide any of their own content, and they do so by many of the people in this room who raised their hands and said, yes, I use Facebook. They get the masses to go create the content for them. In this case, by going after the publishers, they're basically offering them, I think, what's the analogy basically when you, I don't know, they're offering a hand to somebody that essentially is going to end up smacking them in the face, because what they're basically doing is saying, hey, you publishers, you're awful at publishing your own content on mobile, your platforms are slow, you're not getting, and here we're going to bring you an audience immediately, and we're going to create a platform for you that's well adopted on mobile, and they're basically offering them this life raft that I think ultimately is going to be the demise of the publishers.
I disagree with you a little bit. I think what Facebook is trying to say, whether the publishers accept it or not, is this: they're there anyway, so why not use our platform?
Who are there anyway? People.
Your customers, they're using Facebook.
Yeah.
So why not take advantage of that?
Yeah.
Right?
But here's the downside, right? Is basically now, though, think about this. Certainly already these publishers are getting so much traffic from Facebook. I mean, Facebook is still being used to go publish this content, right? And you're getting to articles because you follow me and I'm posting that. So, but the downside is now, think about, and I think actually for Facebook too, the downside, they're going to now actually have an interest in making sure that certain content is viewed more than others, because they're going to owe it back from an ad revenue perspective to these publishers who they've signed a deal with the New York Times, but they haven't done so for the Washington Post. Right now, their algorithms are all up to us, that we go and promote content that we want to see, and you get that because of your friends. They're going to have now a considered interest in making sure that some content gets seen more than others. I think that's a challenge, and I think that the people will start to see through that. I think it's a threat to their brand.
You're pretty smart.
I don't know.
Yeah?
Does
everybody feel smarter in this room from listening to Scott? I do. He's helping me get through the digital transformation process. You are watching CMS Connected. We're going to take a quick break. We're on location at the Hotel Marlowe at the 2015 Intranet Reloaded event. We're back with more after this.